All right, picture this. A remote jungle in Thailand, dense with ancient trees and crawling with shadows that seem to move. You think you're just here for some adventure, a wild story to tell your friends back home. But then you hear it. A deep growl. Too close. What if I told you some predators in this jungle don't just hunt their prey, they become them? Welcome, wanderer, to the fog's embrace. I am the hermit, your guide through tales long buried and whispers never meant to reach the living. Follow the light of my lantern, but tread carefully. Some stories have a way of following you home. Now, let's step into the story, shall we? Aaron, 36, had been craving a thrill. So, when Eric, his old friend who'd spent the last 20 years in Thailand, invited him on a jungle trek, Aaron couldn't resist. He even roped in his best friends, Mark and Kate, a married couple, to join the adventure. The group met Eric in a small hill tribe village near the Dong Phaya Yen Mountains. Their guide, Poom, was a quiet, stoic Thai man with a sharp gaze and years of jungle knowledge inherited from his father, a skilled huntsman. As they set out, the forest seemed alive. The deeper they went, the more it felt like it was watching them. At their campsite, Eric and Poom insisted they sleep on a raised platform. "Why not just pitch the tents here?" Mark groaned. Poom's expression darkened. "The forest isn't just trees and animals. It has spirits, things that demand respect. If you don't show it, you'll regret it." Aaron laughed nervously. "You're serious?" Poom didn't answer. "Have you heard of Seua Saming? A tiger?" "It's not just a tiger," Poom explains. "It's a cursed soul, a human turned into a beast, either through dark magic or their sins. They're clever, cunning. They can mimic voices, faces. They don't just hunt. They lure. The only way to tell was through subtle signs, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark, their inability to answer deeply personal questions." Eric, who had been living in Thailand for over 20 years, leaned forward, his expression deadly serious. "Listen, this isn't just some campfire story. People have vanished in this jungle, like gone without a trace. And here's the thing. When these shapeshifters get killed, they don't just stay as tigers. They change back. Villagers have claimed hunters found bodies, half human, half tiger, like they were caught mid-transformation or something, didn't have the chance to fully turn before they died." Mark, ever the skeptic, scoffed. All right. Enough ghost stories. Let's focus on surviving the mosquitoes." The group laughed, but the tension lingered. Later that night, Mark, clearly unimpressed by Poom's warnings, urinated near a termite hill, a blatant sign of disrespect. Poom, furious, warned him of the consequences, but Mark shrugged it off. Morning came, but it didn't bring the relief they'd hoped for. Instead, it brought chaos. The group had to fix their raised platform. It had partially collapsed overnight, leaving them vulnerable. Poom decided they'd need to gather wood to build a new ladder. The group split up. Kate and Mark went one way, Aaron and Poom another, and Eric ventured off on his own. Hours passed. The dense jungle made everything feel suffocating, the silence broken only by the rustle of leaves and distant animal calls. Aaron, trudging behind Poom, suddenly froze. He heard it before he saw it, a low growl that seemed to vibrate in his chest. Then it happened. A tiger burst from the undergrowth, faster than Aaron could even process. It lunged at Poom, clamping its powerful jaws around him and dragging him into the shadows. Aaron's heart pounded as he shouted Poom's name, but the jungle swallowed his cries. The tiger and Poom were gone. No blood trail, no body, just nothing. Meanwhile, on the other side of the jungle, Kate was getting uneasy. Mark wasn't acting like himself. He snapped at her for no reason, his irritation bubbling over small things, like the way she carried the firewood. "Are you okay?" she asked, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. "I'm fine," he growled, his tone sharper than she'd ever heard. "It's just last night. I didn't sleep well. Mosquitoes were everywhere." But it wasn't just his tone. His movements were off, stiff, almost robotic. Before Kate could press him further, the undergrowth exploded. A tiger. The massive beast lunged at Mark, its claws raking through the air. Kate's scream pierced the jungle as she ran, her instincts taking over. She didn't look back. She didn't want to see what happened to Mark. Back at the raised platform, Aaron and Eric were trying to stay alert, nerves on edge. Every shadow looked like it could move. Every sound felt like a threat. Suddenly, they heard groaning. "Help me!" Mark's voice was weak, almost unrecognizable. "The tiger attacked me. Kate ran off." Aaron moved to help, but Eric grabbed his arm, stopping him. "Wait. Ask him something personal, something only Mark would know," Eric whispered, his voice low and urgent. Aaron hesitated. "He's barely standing, man. I don't think he's in any condition for a Q&A, Aaron said, his voice filled with doubt. But Eric didn't budge. "If that's really Mark, he'll know." Aaron swallowed hard. "Okay. Mark, if it's really you, tell me. What's the name of the restaurant we went to in Bangkok last year?" Mark blinked, his face pale and covered in sweat. I don't remember. It doesn't matter." He coughed, his voice desperate. "I'm in pain. I have a fever. Just help me." Eric's eyes narrowed. "It matters." Before they could press further, Kate came sprinting toward them. Her face was pale, her voice frantic. "Mark's dead," she cried. "I saw a tiger. It tore him apart." She froze when she saw Mark standing there, alive. Her voice broke, her words shaky. How did you get here before me, Mark?" Mark's expression darkened. "What the hell are you talking about? I barely escaped, Kate. You ran. You left me there to die." Kate stumbled back, shaking her head in disbelief. "That's not you. That's not you." Mark's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a snarl. "What did you just say?" Before anyone could react, Mark lunged at Kate, his movements unnatural and violent. He grabbed her arm with terrifying strength, his grip tightening as she screamed. "Mark, stop!" Aaron shouted, but Mark didn't let go. This wasn't Mark. He had never been violent, not like this. Eric handed Aaron the gun. "Get out," Aaron said, his voice trembling but firm. Mark's face contorted, anger flashing in his eyes. But when Aaron fired a warning shot, Mark fled into the darkness. Morning came, bringing the rescue team with it. They found Mark's body deep in the jungle. His injuries were severe, consistent with a tiger attack, but the autopsy revealed something else. He'd also succumbed to malaria. Mark's wake was held at Kate's house. The room was filled with mourners, but as the evening wore on, only Aaron, Eric, and Kate remained. Kate offered Aaron a drink, her movements slow and deliberate. For a moment, Aaron thought he saw something, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light, like a cat's. His stomach dropped, but he shook it off. It was just the dim lighting. Right? Then he heard it. A low, guttural growl. Aaron's head snapped toward Kate. She stood in the corner, her silhouette unnaturally rigid. "Kate," Aaron called out, his voice wavering. "I'm sorry, Aaron," she whispered. Her lips parted, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. Aaron froze. That wasn't Kate's voice. It was Poom's. Before Aaron could react, Eric stepped in front of the door, blocking his escape. "You were always part of the plan," Eric said, his voice cold and unrecognizable. His eyes glinted, the same eerie glow flickering in them. Aaron's breath quickened as Kate began to change. Her body contorted, shifting into something monstrous, something not human. Her face twisted into a tiger's snarl, her transformation grotesque and terrifying. Eric followed, his body breaking and reforming into a beast. The room closed in on Aaron. And then, darkness. And just like that, the legend of the Seua Saming claimed another victim. Some stories aren't just tales, they're warnings. And in the jungle, not everything is as it seems. Subscribe to Fog Tales, where the eerie meets the exotic, and the unexplained waits to be uncovered. Until next time, keep the lights on and your doors locked. You never know what's lurking in the dark.